we have Athrun start us off with not wanting to have history repeat itself by repeating itself. That is pretty much the theme of Gundam SEED Destiny.
Especially here in Gundam SEED Destiny Movie 2. Their respective swords was the subtitle to this interesting film.
Yes. Admittedly, when we started this one up, we stopped it right away because we weren't sure if we put the right disc in.
No, seriously, we couldn't tell. Like, there's a wedding. They briefly mentioned something about Kigali, like, marrying this kind of D-bag who's in the Orb government. And that's where the movie opens. Like,
2 seconds in, we get to see her being driven to the altar.
And we were confused. Like, Brian got up, he like pulled it out of the DVD player. We examined the DVD for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, to tell it, this is taking right off from where we left off and the end of the first movie, which was Kira just finished beating up a bunch of people that came to his summer house to kill Lacus. We had Athrun. Is he going into space?
Athrun, yeah, he just left with Savior Gundam.
Yep, he was on his way back down to Earth, specifically Orb. And then, Kigali was left in Orb to kind of fend for herself at the hands of the politicians there.
Nice job, Athrun.
And we get one line that lasts about 2 seconds in the first movie where the one douchebag guy proposes to Kigali. Specifically, let's get married.
Join my blue mullet. And the next thing we know, there they are.
They're at the altar.
And just when you think things are going, she's gonna get married. Of course she's not.
No, Kira shows up.
In what is, I will admit, probably the best wedding crashing ever. Freedom swoops in, knocks over a bunch of boxes with birds, and it picks her up, and she's kind of freaked out.
Billy Idol could not have put it better. So from that point, we get taken back to the Archangel, which is the ship of our main characters from the first series. And apparently the crew has just been hanging around.
Everyone. Literally everyone's just chilling on the ship.
And so they take off and vanish, so like this main flagship of Orb just gets hijacked and no one really seems to care.
Then we cut back to the Minerva, where Athrun is coming in Savior Gundam. He's made it down to Earth. Apparently had no trouble with the atmosphere, I guess.
Though when he gets to Orb... Well, we shouldn't say he gets to Orb. When he gets to the Minerva, he gets into a conversation with Luna, who just asks, like, how was your trip, kind of thing.
And he's like, well, Orb tried to shoot me down.
Which we do not see.
Which would have been something cool to see, yeah. So we're like, okay, well, so we're not going to see that happen. Well, so much for showing and not telling.
Yeah. But we also get a peek at Durandal, who's been kind of mulling over things, kind of putting together his evil plot, if you will.
Looking at the footage from the last battle from the last movie.
And checking Shin's Facebook status, which states that he's like gone into seed mode, and that he is a likely candidate to defeat Kira. He literally says that.
He specifically says he wants someone to defeat Kira. I really hope they follow up on this. Cough, cough. So now that he's on board the Minerva, Talia realizes that there's no keg. And is just like, well, Athrun, you go be in charge, I guess.
We did mention that he got promoted to super secret service.
We did not in the last video.
Oh.
He
gets promoted to this special forces unit called Faith of the Zaft army, which kind of, like, he's on this whole other level. You can kind of think of him like a U.S. Marshal. He has jurisdiction over everybody.
And yeah, then he takes orders from no one but Durandal himself. Bum bum bum.
Of course, Durandal's like, dude, it's just a suggestion, you know, you can do what you want, I don't care.
Good.
But then we're almost immediately,
They fall under attack, like
they fall under attack.
like Athrun hasn't even changed yet, and it's like
the bad guys from the very beginning of the first movie.
remember those ones that disappeared?
They show up again.
Masked man and all.
Yep. And they attack, and it's fun.
And there's a big epic fight scene. Fight.
Cut up some ships with a giant sword. Fight.
And then Shin kind of gets distracted. He runs into the girl pilot, Stella, whose robot can do the dignified thing of turning into a robot dog. And he fights her for quite a bit. Well, I think he starts out fighting someone else, and he kind of just ends up... he starts out fighting Neo, the masked man, and then ends up fighting her instead. Well, meanwhile, Athrun is taking on Sting, the green-haired kid. And during this, Shin finds this little facility where the Alliance basically have slave labor, so he blows up the facility and goes just buck wild.
Yeah, this is where he pretty much goes crazy, and we've given him the nickname of Mad Dog Shin.
And he fills that job very well. Dang.
Yeah, he's not taking out other mobile suits at this point. He is going around shooting at people running on the ground, specifically soldiers. He's kind of doing this to help the slave people who kind of look Mexican.
They kind of look Mexican, unfortunately. And then after all this damage, he pulls the fences up, and it's like, hey, you're free.
Which he gets a lot of praise from the people that he just helped.
He doesn't get much praise from Athrun, however.
When they get back on the ship.
Who's not so happy that he disobeyed orders. Because the whole time he's causing all this trouble, Athrun's like, hey, knock that off.
We need to get back to the fight. Dude, stop it. Dude. Then he gives him this big self-righteous speech about how you have to follow orders and you're not supposed to take your suit out for a joyride.
And don't be a hero, Shin.
And to which we kept having to say, you're one to talk, Athrun.
Athrun, did you even watch the last show you were in?
I think he's completely forgot. He has selective amnesia.
I think it's funny that Athrun basically had the same duties near the end of SEED when they first gave him the Justice, and he wasn't Faith then. I want to know when the Faith Order was established.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, again, Shin gets a lot of praise from his comrades and everything. He feels very justified in what he did, which sets up the dynamic really well, where you have Shin, who believes in what he's fighting for, and then there's Athrun, who finishes off the conversation to get the last word. He remarks, like, don't you realize you're becoming the one who creates more mourning for other people?
Mm-hmm. Makes Shin think about some stuff for a while.
Yeah.
We then cut to this really weird montage that I don't know how I feel about it at all.
If you remember, we talked about Mir Campbell as the Lacus lookalike, and they decide to show us one of her concerts
with really bad lip syncing.
Bad lip syncing. I wasn't terribly impressed by the animation for the dancing in general. This is no Macross.
A lot of jiggly. But
the pink Zakus.
But between her dancing and this ugly pink Zaku, I have this thing against pink Mecha. We get basically a montage of one of my favorite episodes from SEED Destiny, of one of the ones that I actually thought worked really well, where Shin and Athrun are fighting in this canyon. And I mean, it's kind of cool because you get to see that Shin's been going around getting his inflated ego and kind of being a hero, but at the same time, you don't really understand what it is that you're seeing unless you've seen the episode in question.
Yeah.
It's one of the only SEED Destiny episodes I heartily recommend that people check out. I'll I'll put the number in the description.
And after our montage, we get taken to a dinner at Durandal's place somewhere. And
his sweet pad.
his sweet pad, we get introduced to Heine Westenflus,
who was played in Japanese by TM Revolution himself, Takanori Nishikawa.
But in the English dub, he's played by someone who's probably more true to the goof standard for pilots, which is usually the middle-aged fat man that's probably balding.
We haven't seen him, but I mean, to put this in perspective, Heine looks like he's 17, and he sounds like this.
He's got the most bass voice. He sounds more mature than Durandal.
Yeah, he sounds older than Durandal. All I could think of was the awful Zeta Gundam dub with "Did you bring me chicken?" again. That's what it was. It was just bad.
But we also get the conversation there about this organization called Logos, who were kind of the ones manipulating the Earth forces into going nuke crazy early on in the first movie.
They were the strange Victorian men's club that we mentioned before.
And we also get the revelation to some people.
Oh my god.
That people make money off of war. Who would have thought?
Like, Durandal makes this big deal out of it. It's like, people don't know that people actually make money off war. And I'm like, they don't?
They don't?
Who doesn't know this? What fantasy land do these people live in? I'm really confused.
It's just ridiculous that how surprised these characters are.
Everyone's an idiot.
But we actually get to see our four look-alike. For those that don't know, Universal Century and most Gundams in general have a character that's kind of a little aloof, usually a woman, or a girl, I should say.
Yeah, more often a girl than, yeah.
Who is usually kind of goes crazy.
Yeah, she's...
But the main character, like, runs into her and becomes completely infatuated.
Yeah, and it's usually love at first sight, OMG, I have new type love with you now. Except, the new type thing shouldn't be here, but we'll get into that later.
In this series, it's her name is Stella. She's one of the three pilots that stole those mobile suits at the beginning of the first movie.
She has the doggy Gundam.
She had the doggy Gundam. And she...
is dancing on a ledge.
To which Mr. Izumi here replies, "Oh, and she's retarded." And then she falls off the cliff.
And as soon as I call her retarded, she just falls off a cliff. I'm like, oh.
Aww.
Oh.
And then
wow, I did
Shin
not mean for that to happen.
Shin proceeds to jump in and save her from drowning. And they get those awkward scenes where the characters are drying their clothes by setting them on fire.
They start a fire and they're sitting there naked, which was really awkward, and the camera angles were, well, they were more tasteful than Macross Frontier, but still.
Yeah. And then after they get rescued by Luna Maria, and Stella gets reunited with her team of cronies, we cut back to Logos, who are realizing how hard they failed at life in general. These guys had like some super plan to like totally wipe out all of the plants and people from Zaft, and when they fail at it, they are completely and utterly baffled and just start pointing fingers.
And it's like, dude, it's your fault, it's the metrosexual guy's fault. No, it's all of you guys' fault. And then we're just kind of like, maybe you guys need some main characters on your team. Did you really think your army of cannon fodder was going to fix this problem?
But this also, like, there's further developments politically in regards to Orb, our country of pacifists with all the guns, and how they're joining the fight against the Zaft forces, which really bothers Shin.
Yeah, this upset Shin a lot. Shin was from Orb, as we established last movie.
Though he was always mad about it, he's always yelling at Kigali, But when he hears that Orb is making these political decisions that are completely against their beliefs, he's really troubled by it.
Part of what I really like about that scene is that Athrun gets a rare moment of clarity in these movies so far, where he actually gets to be like the big brother figure, and is like, well, okay, Shin, what's wrong? And Shin is, of course, there's nothing wrong, everything's fine. Why is Orb fighting with the Earth Alliance? I can't believe they'd do that.
So, while still arguing, he answers Athrun's question.
It's kind of, I don't want to say cute, but it says a lot about the relationship between these two characters.
And then we have a fight.
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 Super fight, because the Orb Union and the Alliance show up to take out the Minerva.
That poor ship. And then, of course, partway through this big epic fight,
the Minerva's about to fire their awesome cannon of doom.
And probably take out a bunch of people.
The Tannhäuser, or whatever it's.
Tannhäusers or something like that. German?
Yeah, it's German.
And Mecha Christ himself shows up from the skies.
Yes, the Freedom comes riding in, destroys the Tannhäuser. And then, to follow that up, the Strike Rouge, my other favorite pink robot, comes flying out.
Piloted by Kigali, who asks the Orb forces to withdraw because she's in charge. Well, what happened is there was a change of management in Orb while she was away.
Remember that douche who was trying to marry her? Apparently he's in charge now, I guess.
Somehow. And so he made a deal with the Allied forces so that they wouldn't attack Orb. He's helping them out. Which really clashes with most of the soldiers in Orb's beliefs and everything. And they convince him that Kigali is in fact a traitor. And
yeah, he's like, no, it's not the real Kigali, it's a fake Kigali. I'm sick of people being accused of being the fake whatever in these movies. But, and of course, everyone's a sheep.
They're all sheep.
So they buy it right away. And Kigali gets super pathetic. She's crying.
Her character takes a nosedive. Probably from this point on.
It just gets worse and worse. This is her starting to slip off the edge.
Again, she's in her own mech, which she piloted in the first series.
She pilots in the last major battle of Gundam SEED and manages to get that thing out of the battle relatively intact.
This time around, she doesn't fire a shot.
She's just flying around crying.
She just lets her big brother do it. Or her little brother.
They're
twins.
They're twins, but she claims that there's... The spunky Kigali claims that there's no way someone so whiny like Kira could be the older brother. Which is so ironic now, because all she does is cry. So, Kira self-righteously goes around kind of shooting at stuff.
Taking people out, names and whatnot.
Kind of randomly shooting at stuff. And Heine, understandably, is like, hey, stop randomly shooting at people, you dick.
So he goes out with his orange goof, which I don't know if we even talked about that yet, but we will later. And tries to take him down. Kira, of course, slash.
And disarms Heine.
Disarms Heine.
Which is unfortunate, because remember, there are other armed mobile suits on the field.
Like a doggy.
So Stella goes in her doggy mech and kills Heine dead.
Almost accidentally, because she was going after Kira, and Heine just kind of was floating around going, huh? And then slash! Cut right through the middle.
Yeah, he gets killed because everyone is pissed with Kira for coming in and randomly shooting at everybody. Because at this point, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Disabling all of them, mind you. I mean, he's still being surgical, but he's
just that good.
He also disarms Shin during this fight, which literally he cuts the Impulse's arm off.
Cuts the arm off. And to conclude this fight, like, you think, there'd be some way they resolve it and make everybody else retreat or something. No, they just fade to black.
They fade to black. we were supposed to assume that everyone retreated from Kira's awesome, but we don't see it. It just fades to black, and it's like, next scene, please.
Minerva's docked and getting repaired.
Move on.
Heine's got his coffin getting hauled out, and all of his
stuff.
All of his stuff.
They say that they're getting. That this guy says he's going to take Heine's personal effects, and I think what it's supposed to be is that the Minerva's getting supplied, but you can't see where these crates are going.
In the background.
So we were kind of like, it looks like he just has all these crates of things where he is on the ship.
Yeah.
So they're docked for a little bit. And Atherin's like, hey, I'm going to go talk to some people.
Yeah, he wants to go talk to Kira about, butting in to his fight. And so they... Let's see. We have the hot springs moment before that where Kigali's...
Of all the things that they could have cut from the TV series... They leave this in.
It's integral to the plot, I'm sure.
I'm sorry.
Because it involves Kigali, who's feeling sad about not being able to stop Orb, and then Lacus coming in to cheer her up by squirting her in the face.
Now, keep in mind, what we need to establish of why I'm so upset about this is that it's not like they go to a hot spring. It's not even that stupid. It's stupider. There is a hot spring inside of the Archangel.
There's a giant onsen that's... I swear there's 3 pools in it.
Inside of the Archangel. When did it get put in there?
Complete with trees in the background, rocks, and steamy baths.
And we just get all this pointless nudity, Not that we actually see, anything, but I mean, it's still just a bunch of... This movie has had so much nudity. And the second time it's just pointless. It's just like, well, here's the onsen. And what's worse is that they flash back to things that we never saw during this scene.
That's a reoccurring theme in this movie, is that we flash back to things that we didn't see happen unless we watched the series version of it.
And it's a relatively long scene, too. Like, they could have cut that scene and had those scenes in instead. So that way, rather than having people reminisce about them and tell you about them, we could, see the actual scene. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. But after that wonderful divergence, they have what I call the intervention, where Atherin and Kira and Kigali all meet up to talk about who's right and who is not.
Now, ideally, this should have been, Kira and Kigali talking to Atherin and being like, Atherin, you're repeating every dumb mistake you made last series.
Which is funny, because we started off the show by saying we didn't want history to... okay.
Yeah. And, and then him, coming to an understanding. Unfortunately, everyone in this intervention is stupid. If you're going to have an intervention to tell someone to stop being stupid, you have to send not stupid people to tell them that.
Seriously, all of these characters make valid arguments against each other that neither of them acknowledge or, even...
Atherin's taken aback by one of them, but that's about it. Other than that, they're just kind of talking at each other.
There's this great one where Kira tells Atherin that troops were sent to kill Lacus at their summer home.
They were definitely Zaft special forces.
No, they're not. There's no way. There's plenty of people that hate Lacus. Just like Mother Teresa, Princess Diana.
It's like, name one person who hates Atherin, come on. Who would hate her? I'm pretty sure she goes out in the forest and sings with the hummingbirds, and they harmonize or something like
Seriously, Durandal's the only one who has any motivation to have her killed.
No, that's ridiculous.
Don't talk about my dad like that. Who? What?
He calls...
He has us call him Dad. I don't know. Yeah. We don't believe you, Arthur.
The scene was just... so silly. And then I also couldn't help but notice that when Atherin parks his Gundam, he doesn't turn the phase shift off.
His battery is gonna be drained.
He just left the engine running. Good job, Atherin. You're an ace.
But kind of during and after this intervention, while this is going on, Shin and Rei were sent on a scouting mission, and they find this facility, which is full of a bunch of
human bodies that are messed with, and a room full of brains, and Rei has a freak out. Anyway, yeah, and he has the flashback to some facilities that look a lot like the ones that Rao showed Kira when he's like, by the way, you're the alternate coordinator. Ha 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 ha. So again, he looks like Rao. Unfortunately, that's really about all we could see Rei do in this movie.
And then we get out in the woods. They run into Stella, or specifically Stella runs into them.
We should explain why Stella runs into them, because this is where it gets stupid. I'm sorry, it was stupid before.
Okay, the three characters that stole the Gundams in the beginning of the first movie are these what are they called?
They're the Extended. Because the Alliance doesn't believe in genetic manipulation, but they want people who can fight like coordinators. They'll use drugs.
She's a druggie.
Or they'll use like nano machines to enhance them. Now the ones in the first Gundam Seed, the first three, were a lot like the Jem'Hadar from Star Trek DS9, in that they were like bred to fight, but they kept them addicted to this drug to make sure they'd never get off the handle, and they'd have to keep coming back to get their fix. In this one, it's more like they seem a bit more stable in some regards, but they have little control words that set them off.
And they just like panic and go crazy, or just mentally break down when they hear these words. And you think like a word like that, you'd want it to be something that's not said in common conversation.
Like grommet or
whizbanger.
Something that you're not going to hear. Something especially you're not going to hear on the battlefield.
Like die.
Unfortunately, Stella's keyword is die.
Which causes her to just freak out, and she goes tearing off out in the woods in her suit, where she runs into Shin and Athrun,
who frack her up bad. I mean, she's going crazy already, but she's up against the Minerva's two best pilots, so they just beat the tar out of her.
And we use best pilots kind of loosely with one of them. Shin, on the other hand, cuts a hole in her cockpit, and realizes it's her, and pretty much drags her out and runs her back to the Minerva to get healed by the doctor.
And the doctor's like, that's an enemy combatant, and I apparently haven't taken the Hippocratic Oath. So, yeah.
Of course, then Stella kind of wakes up and tries attacking everybody, specifically the nurse. The poor nurse.
This poor nurse gets the crap beat out of her. I mean, oh.
She's sitting there getting strangled while everyone else except Shin is like just kind of watching.
Shin is trying to just restrain Stella, and they eventually do. And they figure out she's an Extended. And Shin gets very protective and says he said it earlier, but he says the dumbest thing you can possibly say to a girl in a mecha anime.
Which is, don't worry, I'll protect you. You know what you could have done? Could have just pulled the trigger yourself and cut out the middleman.
Seriously. If you're in a mecha anime, never promise to protect a girl. Ever.
Or if you're a girl, don't protect a guy.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
It doesn't work for either gender.
It is a death sentence. Anyway, he tries to comfort her, and we get to see a softer side with Shin, so that was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And then, let's see. We round off with another big fight, which actually uses some of the same footage of the fight before that faded to black. Remember that one?
Yeah, it's really awkward. So we're back in the ship.
You pretty much replay that fight.
Except
with some changes.
With a couple changes. Like for starters, Shin uses the artillery pack for Impulse Gundam for the first time in these movies, which might be the only time he uses it actually.
Probably.
Kind of sad. And Kira and Kigali come out again, and Kigali's like, come on, listen to me, please. And this time, though, Shin's like, no, You are so full of it, I'm gonna missile you.
So he shoots a bunch of missiles at Kigali, to which Kira replies with laser blasts to shoot them out of the sky. And it's just this great moment where I think pretty much everyone that ever watched this show, this is
the fight you want to see.
This is the fight you want to see. It's like the Amuro versus Char, right? Mm-hmm. It's Kira versus Shin, the two great pilots of the show.
Mm-hmm. This is the fight that you really want to see, and there's reason you want to see it, because Shin has legitimate reason to be upset, and you want to like both characters at this point.
And right now, Shin just picked a fight with the wrong brother.
And so Kira comes in, attacking him, but to Shin's credit, he dodges.
He dodges it. He goes into seed mode, and just...
Kira doesn't even manage to get him.
Doesn't even land a hit this time.
Atherin, being, again, kind of pulling the big brother move, comes in and decides to fight Kira instead.
To which Kira replies, // sloosh. There goes your arms, your legs, and your wings.
Savior Gundam is taken out already.
That's one movie it lasted.
Really underwhelming, especially after its big opening sequence in the first movie. It's like, they were building it up so much, and then it's like, oh, well, that stunk. Meanwhile, one of the other extended, whose Gundam turns into a submarine, ends up fighting Shin, and Shin distracts him because the guy tries firing at him, and he thinks he made a hit, but he only hits Shin's striker pack, and Shin chucks this javelin at the guy.
Gets him right in the cockpit.
And so the last you see of this poor character, Owl, is just his mobile suit sinking and his helmet filling with blood and water.
Sad day for him.
Yeah, stinks to be him.
And then we kind of finish off with Kira and Shin going back at it.
For a little bit. But then Shin he gets to the high mobility striker back, and he fights Kira for a little bit. But then the Orb Union... what we should mention is that Orb is really pounding the crap out of the Minerva at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So, the entire ship is, looking trashed. Luna gets pooped on yet again by the movie when she just gets she can't hit worth a damn.
She's kind of stuck as a turret on the Minerva because she has no way of flying.
The Zaku's can't fly. So she's just standing there on the ship as a turret. Ray loses an arm on his machine and keeps fighting, but her machine, she fires, can't hit a thing, and then she just gets pounded.
A salvo, and the next time we see her, she's not necessarily covered in blood, but she's bleeding.
She's really beat up, and her machine isn't getting up anytime soon.
Yeah. That's her second scene, and well, she had some more scenes where she was doing stuff, but...
But yeah, she just gets beat up really bad again. But the unfortunately for the Orb fleet, they're taking heavy losses too, and Captain Totaka, who's been this Orb character who we've seen on and off, and even in a flashback where he was one of the soldiers who comforted Shin after his family got killed, is like, well, the orders were to destroy the Minerva, and that's what I'm going to do. And he knows it's a suicide mission, but he's like, all right, let me make this clear to you, Yuna, you weird douchebag, bad...
you're a horrible leader.
You're a terrible leader, but I'm doing this to make Orb look good, to show that we'll fight to the last. I entrust my fate to the Archangel. Then I went, ugh. Anyway, so Shin calls out the Sword Striker. He's actually used all of his packs during this battle. And we get the return of Mad Dog Shin. All the while, as no one was listening to Kigali, now she's just whimpering and moaning and being pathetic. Again, she hasn't fired off a shot.
But she's flying around this battlefield, crying.
And we end the movie with Kigali crying while Shin just decimates what's left of the fleet, including Totaka.
Yep. It's, all in all, it was really good... I'm going to call it episode for Shin.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one where Shin should have been on the cover of the DVD case.
this is Shin's story for once.
These are like all of our good points of these episodes are about Shin's character development.
Because, wow, we see so much out of him in this. And he's a... I used to not say it, but I will say it now. I really think he's a cool character that they really... I think he had so much room to grow.
He definitely has his moments where he's a dick. But he's still a very relatable character. He's still struggling with all those things that have happened in his past. And now his ego is getting a lot larger.
But understandably so.
Yeah.
Because he does save people, and he likes saving people and making them feel better. And that's really his big thing.
And even like with someone like with Stella, we see this much softer side of him where, and it doesn't feel forced at all. I don't think.
I didn't think it felt forced at all. It's in Shin's character to, he's violent. He is very violent, like we said, Mad Dog Shin. But he's violent when it comes to protecting people or looking for people who he thinks are being oppressed. And Stella is clearly
someone who was oppressed.
And someone who needs support when he finds her. And I think it's very much within his character to want to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention he's a teenager and she is a hot teenager. So, also add the hormones in, and I think he was perfectly...
Yeah. But as far as the other characters go, we actually don't get much with Mir. The fake Lacus. Lacus herself sneaks into space.
That's the part we forgot to talk about in the story, yeah.
In a rather ingenious way, she pretends to be the fake Lacus to get on the private jet that takes her into space.
Which is really cool, because she's just... Kira reverts a little bit in this, too, and he's whining, "But I don't want you to go!
I want to go with you! I should be there to protect you!"
And then she's like, no, Kira, I'll be fine. This is really sad, because Shin actually has these actual things to worry about, and Kira's biggest challenge is he doesn't want to say goodbye to his girlfriend when she goes on a long trip. I deal with that every month, show.
Yeah. Again, Atherin's completely a tool. Transforms, flies around, transforms.
Why are we supposed to... The problem with Atherin being the protagonist is that he's not acting like a protagonist. He's still being a tool.
That is one big thing that we're going to talk about in a little bit. In fact, I won't talk about it now.
The focus, yeah. But are there any...
Lacus's dress.
Oh, God. So, yeah, Lacus... so that was a really genius scene, but even with Lacus becoming this symbol of perfection and beauty, I think the way that she was dressing in this movie is, in a way, kind of character assassination. Her outfit is this goofy ninja thing.
It's like the skimpy ninjas that you see in video games, in I don't...
The sleeveless kimono with a short skirt.
Yeah.
And she has this coat over it, but we see her taking it off, and it's like, I don't know. Now, Lacus in the past has always been a very conservatively dressed girl. Her commander outfit was similar. We had that kimono look in the first series, but the skirt was longer on that one. And again, she's a very conservatively dressed girl. I can't see a girl who always dresses like that to suddenly start wearing short no sleeves and short shorts or short skirts. That usually just doesn't look very classy.
The other dress that we see her in the credits and openings is this low cut gown
lower
thing.
Than low cut.
But it's it only covers up to her breasts,
where her
basically.
nipple should be.
Yeah.
That's...
And it's strapless.
It's
so
physics defying.
Maybe they only wear it in space.
I don't understand what they did to Lacus's outfit. Maybe they're trying to make her so perfect. Not only does she not make wrong decisions, but she's also perfectly sexy. There's no...
Yeah. Lacus is God.
Lacus is God, like we said in the last video.
People are sheep.
People are sheep. Oh. God, there's this big freaked out montage.
When Kira first shows up to the battlefield after taking out the Tannhäuser,
Every character
on screen that has a name
gets to gasp.
And it's not all at once. It's one at a time. So we get like 10.
Did you ever see that Family Guy episode where where they're like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, and the Kool-Aid guy comes in, oh yeah. It was like that, but without the Kool-Aid guy.
Yeah.
I think the Kool-Aid guy could have improved that.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous.
Before we move on to much else, something that I do wanna discuss, and I know we both have kind of opinions on this one, are the battles in this movie, because so much of this movie was fight.
Yeah.
I really liked the battles in this movie. I thought they were kind of fast-paced and entertaining, and I definitely felt like I got my fill of action.
Personally, on the other hand, for my opinion, is that yes, they were fast-paced. They were very pretty, for the most part, and very action-oriented. The problem is I couldn't figure out what was going on half the time. I have trouble like keeping track of who's shooting who and why are they blowing up and whose side is this guy on. It's all very confusing. It is so emphasized on quick shots before, like, you know, the character blows up this mech and then we see another character blow up a different one. And so much of that happens that it's very hard to keep track of everything that's going on. But that was just my opinion.
And I'll give you that, because I will admit they don't do a very good job at introducing which army uses what mechs. So it's kind of like when you see all these cannon fodder blowing up, it's like, whose cannon fodder is it? They don't explain it very well.
Though I guess we get the explanation that the Minerva never has more than about 3 suits.
And the Minerva
is always at the center of these fights.
It's amazing that, like, we're supposed to believe that it's this amazing ship, but most of the scenes that it's in, it's getting beat up.
Granted, I still can't believe that it's survived as long as it has, because it only has like 3 mechs, 1 main gun, some machine guns on the side to take care of incoming missiles. I mean, it's not a heavily armed ship, I would say.
It's not a very well-designed ship by any means. And it has an entire system built into it just to launch the core block system parts for Impulse. I mean, if they lose Impulse...
they're screwed.
It's all over. It's very strange.
Da-na-na.
Who's that Zeon Mech? Da-na-na. It's Goof! Goofy! It's time for the Gundam SEED Destiny Movie 2 Zeon Mech of the Week.
And this week, we have the Goof.
The Goof Ignited.
Not our really fancy blue one piloted by overweight men in their mid-40s.
But a flight-capable orange one piloted by TM Revolution. By the way, the Ignited in its name... Why did they use Ignited? Because that was the name of the song that TM Revolution did for Gundam SEED Destiny. Ha 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 ha. Punch. The acronym on this one, because Zaft loves their acronyms, is Guardian of Unity Forerunner.
Yeah. These are getting dumber by the minute.
How is this going to get any worse? Well, anyway, so... what can we say about this goof?
It doesn't look that bad. Much like the Zaku, it got a nice visual upgrade to it, which I can get behind, despite the color. I will say, however, that Heine is not what we come to expect from goof pilots.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the past, whenever... The goof is an interesting mobile suit, because despite the fact that it serves a really big part in original Gundam... And in 8th MS, it really didn't make that much of an appearance after that until 8th MS Team, where we get a goof shows up again, but every time we get it, like we have Rambaral, the original goof pilot, and then we have, when it shows up again, it's with Norris Packard in 8th MS Team, and both times, they're heavy set men, but they're always very capable, incredibly brilliant, really good tacticians, really good pilots.
They're aces in every sense of the word. And they continuously mop the floor with our main characters.
Ramba is the first character other than Char who actually is able to fight Amuro. In fact, he almost beats Amuro the first time they meet up.
Norris Picard in 08th MS team takes out 3 gun tanks and pretty much disables the Easy 8 of the ground types, which is our main character's mech, forcing it to rip its arm off in order to beat him. It's an amazing fight, and I highly recommend it. It's very pretty.
And then we get this goof, and Heine he's alright, but he's not goof pilot material. He even steals a scene from Rambaral.
Steals a scene from Rambaral, which we both yelled at him for saying this is no Zaku. The famous quote. But what really makes him less of a goof pilot compared to the rest is how he reacts when Kira shows up in the fight, which is this new unknown variable that ensues chaos, right? Rambaral and Norris Picard would be able to take that and just run with it. New things enter the battlefield all the time, and they would be able to deal with it and move on.
Norris did deal with it. That was pretty much the premise of the episode he pilots the goof in.
He goes out alone to fight 6 enemy mechs. And
takes out half of them. I mean, dang.
And Heine, he goes out there, and as soon as Kira shows up, starts picking off his targets. He goes after Kira, and then he gets disabled, and you're just like wandering around like, what's going on?
Yeah, he does not
handle it well.
Handle it well at all.
He loses his cool. He starts screaming at Kira, which is more hilarious because his voice actor is so deep set.
It was a really bad dub, and it was unfortunate. The mech itself, I really like the design overall, but there's a part of me that doesn't think a goof should fly. Or work in space, for that matter.
Goofs are ground type forces anyway. So, but I think that's about it for our Zeon Mech of the Week.
So, Zeon Mech of the Week for Gundam SEED Destiny Movie 2. Okay, so Signs of the Apocalypse for Gundam SEED Destiny Movie 2. I'm going to start with Kigali.
Sure.
Kigali. We have our first super character assassination. We've had characters regressing. Atherin is kind of shrinking, but wow. The girl who fought Baku's in a Jeep is gone. The girl who fought in an albeit awful color-schemed Gundam at Yakin Due is gone. She is just flying around in circles crying. That is what she's been reduced to.
Yeah. And there's really not much more you can say about that. It's really pathetic, actually, to see how the mighty have fallen. And maybe that's why they were so readily able to believe that it wasn't her, because she was such a pathetic pilot.
She's such a wuss, yeah. All Kigali does in this movie, I'm not kidding, all she does in this movie is cry. Every scene, she is crying. Crying in her mecha, moping in the hot tub, crying in her mecha, crying on the way to the wedding, cry. I mean, she used to make fun of Kira for crying all the time.
My, how the tables have turned.
No kidding.
Next up would probably be the protagonist and who it is.
Who is our protagonist? I have no idea.
We can't figure this one out. I don't think the show knows. And Nick, you have a comment on Bandai's take on it.
I don't think Bandai knew when the TV series was coming out. It was really interesting watching the merchandise, because I'm a big Gundam model kit and figure collector, and like early on when we first were getting promotional stuff for the show, it was all about Shin. Look at how cool Shin is. Look at Shin's awesome Impulse Gundam. And even the intros and the promotional materials are about, here's Shin and here's our heroic team, the Zaf team. You got Shin and Athrun and Rei and Luna, and they're gonna be your dream team. They're gonna be our heroes throughout this story. And all the early promotional stuff was like that. And you'd get these cool action figure sets that were the Zaf team set with Athrun and Shin's Gundams, and then Rei and Luna's Zaku's. Really cool sets like that. But then, as the series progressed, it's Rei and Luna really don't do much. And as soon as Kira came into the picture, they seem confused about how to portray him. Because it's okay, is he the enemy? And then when it came time for the mid-series upgrade, everything about the Strike Freedom and the Destiny Gundam were Strike Freedom versus Destiny. So Kira would come into promotional pictures, but always fighting Shin. And so it's wait, are they fighting each other? Are they the protagonists against each other? Who are we supposed to be cheering for? And then eventually it just turned into all Kira stuff. But the movie doesn't seem to know. And they claim that they're trying to make Athrun the protagonist, but he's not. He's just letting things happen around him. So he's...
When they said he's the neutral party, they meant it because he doesn't do anything. On the other hand, you have Shin, who kills a lot of people. And then on the opposite side of that, you have Kira, who disables a lot of people.
And both of them are kind of being self-righteous jerks. Although I'd say Kira's being more of a self-righteous jerk because he's preaching while he does it.
And then, of course, there's Athrun, who is self-righteous in his neutrality.
Yeah, I wish you were kidding, but he actually is self-righteous in his neutrality. It's really weird. I don't know who you're supposed to be cheering for. Like we said, this is definitely Shin's... Shin gets all these great moments throughout the movie, and all the really good scenes involve him. But it also, they keep talking about how great the Archangel is, and how great Kira is.
We only saw the Archangel, twice, and honestly, it didn't do much. Most of its shots were done in montage of the fights.
And any times that weren't during the fights, it was always the only reason we went to the Archangel. Let's segue into another sign of the apocalypse. It was just to look at Kira and Lacus.
Yep. Listen to them talk to each other. This is the interesting thing. These two characters only talk like people when they're with each other alone. When they're with everybody else, they are these self-righteous, can do no wrong, infallible creatures.
They are perfect in every way, shape, and form. And I hate them. What?
And when they're alone, they're like, oh, I don't want you to go.
I should clarify. I actually like Kira and Lacus in Gundam SEED. In SEED Destiny, I don't know what happened to them. Their relationship doesn't even make sense to me anymore. It's just Lacus is preaching and Kira goes out and does whatever she says and has no mind of his own.
Kind of like Athrun.
Oh. I think Logos, the last thing is Logos. So they're trying to... The actual introduction of what Logos is, I think they kind of botched in general. But I don't understand why people would be shocked by the idea that people make money off war. I'm sorry, Now, part of this is that I am a history major. So, I mean, that's what I read about every day. But this shouldn't be all that shocking. People make money off war. And I guess now it's time to close off with our final thoughts of Gundam SEED Destiny Movie 2. And I guess what we thought of the movie, where we think it's going.
Well, I will say this was a great one for Shin. This is what, the first movie I think should have been more about, is the character of Shin. Great dynamics of his character, both when he's humble and when he's going berserk. We get to see a very interesting side of the Gundam aspect, which is the more demonic aspect of it, which is it's just this unstoppable thing coming to kill you, and he is merciless. But as far as the other characters go, I mean, this was not a movie for any of the other characters, I felt.
I agree. I loved all of Shin's bits. They were great. I could have dealt with a lot more Shin. And on that other side of the spectrum, though, it's just a disappointing movie. Like, the things that go bad with Seed Destiny are already creeping in. And I was expecting those to hit more harder later on. But wow, the stupid is just coming in, like, at all sides. There's the extendeds and their keywords that don't make any sense. There's
the self-righteous main characters from the first show, who don't agree with each other anymore.
The self-righteous main characters from the first show, Athrun being weak, Kigali losing her purpose, the introduction of Mir in the first movie, and she hasn't really. They haven't done anything
like another
with
line
her
since then.
All she's been doing is going around singing and being jiggly. I mean, it's just not feeling this part of the series at all. And while we said the battles are fun, I'm really not understanding why people will still keep defending this. And
there's not enough plot to support all these battles, especially when two of the fights are the exact same fight. I swear they're in the same locations as they are.
I don't want to see the Impulse fighting over an ocean ever again.
But you're gonna.
Or the Strike, or the Freedom fighting over an ocean ever again. And I really don't want to see Strike Rouge flying around in circles while Kigali cries. No.
You just want to see them in the Onsen again.
Why was that scene even kept in?
Other than that, this one, again, it has some great moments, but it's really starting to lose its hold on its audience, I think.
You gave the last one 3.5 out of 5. What would you give this one?
I'd give this one a 2. It had, like I said, some really great moments, some amazing moments, some fights that we really wanted to see, but it's so superficial.
Yeah, that's a really great way of putting it. I agree. I'd give 2 stars, and those 2 stars, I can actually name the 2 things that are getting a star. One is for Shin's character development, and the other is for the mech battles. But, as you know, that's still not a passing grade. I mean...
Nope.
And I'm really scared of what's to come.
We got 2 movies left.
So thank you for joining us for the Gundam SEED Destiny movie review. As always, I'm still Nick Izumi.
And I'm still Arcemise.
And we look forward to you joining us for SEED Destiny Movie 3. Keep on spocking in the free world.